was the impetus to direct with Fright Night? I mean, that's where you cut your teeth. I mean, what was there ever in your mind, maybe I'll just write the script and give it to somebody else?
No, no.
No.
No. I came through Scream for Help, which was Lorimar, and they're still trying to cut the film and get something releasable out of it. And I said I just wasn't going to do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the closest that I ever got to getting my vision on film was Psycho 2.
Yeah.
The vision that was on the page got about 98% got on screen. And that was because I had such a close working relationship with Richard.
Yeah.
I sat there and I boarded that out with Richard. We were setting up visual set pieces that echoed and were homages to Hitchcock. I mean, that thing was written and storyboarded at almost the same time. And he worked off of boards, Richard did.
Yeah.
So that was the closest it's ever been, the best it's ever been, and it's been nothing but misses ever since whenever somebody else directed it, and there have been misses even when I directed it. So what happened was I came off of Scream for Help as a failure, and I became determined to write my own. And I had the idea, I had what I thought was a very funny idea of a movie fan, myself, becoming convinced that the next door neighbor was a vampire.
Yeah.
And I've been walking around with that for about a year, but I didn't, that's an idea, that's a premise, that's not a story.
Right.
You
Which is important to remember for all those writers out there.
For
There's
all
a
of you
difference
writers
between an
out there.
idea and a story.
Yes.
There's a lot of ideas on the screen now, but not enough stories.
That and I can't, and that's an art form.
Yeah.
But you can tell me, you can pitch something to me in 4 or 5 lines, and please no more.
Yeah.
And I can tell whether it's a premise or whether there's a story in there.
Yeah.
The story came when I said, well, the horror fan, the teenager, what's he going to do if he believes that the next door neighbor is a vampire? Because everybody's going to think he's mad. And I thought, well, of course, he goes to Vincent Price. And the minute that I had the Roddy McDowall character, I had the story.
Yeah.
Because I knew that then, so he goes to this ham actor, who of course has been making down on his luck, doesn't believe a word of any of this stuff, And it was funny, it was delightful, and I knew it was a star turn for a character actor.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and I wrote that sucker probably in about 3 weeks.
And did you write it with Roddy in mind, or did you have?
No, I didn't. No, I did not have anybody in mind. Well, I had people in mind.
Yeah.
Peter Vincent is Peter Cushing and Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I had in mind.
Yeah.
And then I got out there to cast it, and Roddy had done a brilliant job in a movie I had written before that called Class of '84, and he played the school teacher in it, and he also had the cachet. He was becoming the new Vincent Price.
Oh, yeah.
And interestingly enough, one night I went to Roddy's house at dinner, and he introduced me to Vincent Price and his wife.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
What was Vincent like?
He's a lovely, lovely, lovely man. He wasn't interested in the horror movies at all.
It's usually the case.
Yeah, I was fan struck, and I wanted to talk about him.
What was your first reaction when they said, "Okay, we're not going to dump it, but we're going to release this in August"?
Well, that was the dump time.
Yeah.
What happened was I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Listen, your first movie, you've directed it, you're getting a major studio release. I would have been thankful for anything. In those days, and still I guess all the majors have put out all their major productions, and things were tailing off and getting ready to go back to school, and that's when you slipped in the smaller the films that you were not going to market that hard.
Yeah. How did you ultimately land on William Ragsdale? I mean, I'm sure you ran the gamut through, the audition process.
That was me. I was looking for the kid next door.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen came in and read. I've often thought, how different that would have been
The warlock in a Fright Night movie.
Well, he's a very, very talented guy.
Yeah.
He was just too good looking. He wasn't the guy next door.
Yeah.
He was the high school champ. You know, he was the shining. You know, the cut up in high school.
He's the guy that beat up William Ragsdale in
That's right.
high school.
That's right. But he wasn't the captain of the football team.
Right.
Charlie Sheen was not the captain of the football team.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting, very talented guy. Anyway, William had all of that, plus he had that feeling of a normal teenager. He was wonderful.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great. He's got some great line readings too. I love the hot cocoa line.
Right. Drink that.
Mom, I don't need hot cocoa. I didn't have a nightmare.
Talk about Chris Sarandon. I've always been curious as to how you found Chris. I mean, was this somebody who was already on your radar?
I don't remember. I remember that I had to jump through hoops to get him.
It took some convincing on him, trying to get him, or
took me convincing him,
Yeah.
because he was scared of a first-time director, and so he was. But he knew the part.
Yeah.
He knew it was a potential star turn.
Yeah.
He knew that. He just wasn't sure. I had to go and try to give him enough confidence to say yes. I don't know who suggested Chris. But Chris is wonderful. He's brilliant. He's a lovely human being. And we worked together. You know, I worked with him in Child's Play. And then I worked with him in a terrific movie of the week that everybody's forgotten called The Stranger Within with Rick Schroeder. And Chris was also in that.
what were you kind of checking out what your colleagues or your contemporaries at that time were doing in the horror genre, or were you kind of just you kind of knew what your vision was and you were just kind of focusing in on that? I mean, because your Fright Night came along, Nightmare on Elm Street, the slasher boom, all of that other stuff then comes along, this this kind of modern gothic wink wink, pre-Scream, New Nightmare was very, very self-aware of what it was doing. Were you kind of keeping an eye on where horror was at that time?
No.
No. Well, that's always good. I mean, you're not influenced by
no, it's that line that's in Fright Night. I mean, Peter Vincent says, look, horror is terrible what's happening. Everybody's
running around in ski masks, hacking up young virgins.
That's not horror.
Yeah.
Horror is vampires. It's monsters. It's Frank. That was me. No, I was saying even then,
Yeah.
but by then by 83, 84, you had the shock of Halloween, which was the original.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to put down Sean Cunningham, but Friday the 13th is a terrible knockoff. But Halloween was the jump of brilliance.
Yeah.
And that's John Carpenter. So, but it had become flooded at that point. And I was trying to echo back to the monsters that had made my, because that was me. I grew up watching the Friday Night Frights.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the funniest movie I've ever seen is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
One of the best horror comedies out there.
Best.
Yep.
Best. Well, I took that bit of Roddy and Ragsdale walking up the stairs, and they hear Billy Cole behind. That's out of Abbott and Costello.
That's right.
Mr.
McDougal.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But nobody's ever mentioned it that I know of.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was that. Fright Night is my Valentine to the fans. It's the best experience I ever had. The movie was the smallest budget. It was considered a throwaway. They all thought it wasn't going to amount to anything. They had no money or stars in it, so they paid no attention to it. Nobody bothered me. This is the vampire. This is the bat, the transitional bat from Fright Night. The hand went back up inside the bat, over the head. We were manipulating the wings like the Muppets. You can put that out. It's a 5-foot wingspan when you extend that. When I had the thing trying to bite Roddy, then it's a hand puppet in there.
Yeah.
So it was used for both, but we took it and strung it on wires, and they did a match shot on it. This is from the very end of Fright Night. This was Chris Sarandon being burned. And this is what's left of him. They burned the clothes off of him and the rest of the model. And I think the guy's name was Thane Morris who did it. For Stephen Jeffries, this is the werewolf transition, and what's interesting, this is one side of it, and you see the camera side of it. You see the cables, and Stephen Jeffries wore this on top of his head, and that was his shirt. There it matched his shirt, that plaid pattern, and all of these cables and everything is what made the eyes move, the forehead would move, the mouth would move, and it was all done by puppeteers off camera.